Well, hello. Welcome back to SanShabbadoo. Thanks for stopping by. We're going to start off here by fixing up our tram stops, give them some crosswalks, and use the intersection marking tool to add some props. Notably, these little shelters. These shelters came with the narrow tram track by Clues, and since I'm already using that network some, I thought I would just keep using these little shelters, and they're nice. So you just put them on the line with the intersection marking tool and just shift them over, turn them 90 degrees and shift them over, and put the distance, the step between them long enough to where it places it in the center of your segment. So this one is only on one side. The stop is only on one side here. This is the counterclockwise line, which does not go up the little line to the park. This one. And then here, I just decided instead of adding the stations, why not just use that lovely grass-filled network? And then here, this is not really jiving too well, so I need to adjust this so that it looks nice and smooth. I noticed that during the cinematics last time. And now that I've changed the network, the line is not recognizing the stops. And so I tried to move the stops, redo the stops, still getting those little icons, and I'm not sure why. This one I decided I would just move the stop inside the circle because it makes more sense for the tram to stop there and not block the street. And then eventually the little notification icons went away. Here's a place where there are stops on both sides on the pedestrian street. So I copied that from over there, from the line, and then I put it here. And I realized I should probably shift it a little bit farther over to 3 meters so that it's on the edge of that pedestrian street rather than kind of in the middle. And that seems to be where the people are mostly standing as well. So this one I went ahead and made a preset. I'll probably be using it again later. And then this can use the same preset from before, although you can see I need to move these nodes close together and center them here. And I think I want to put crosswalks on these as well. And here's another spot. This one, I don't really need to do the crosswalks, or at least one of them. I think that one crosswalk is enough. Now here, I said I was going to make some stairs going up to the top of this key wall. This is a little bit tricky to do. It requires a lot of move it and some finagling, a little bit of node controller. So I've got the elevated pathway, and then it's connected with some ground pathway at the bottom and the top. And then I'm adding a node to the key wall. And you can see when those key wall nodes get close together, they start acting real crazy. And so what I did right there is a fenceless version of that key wall that's in the Bridges and Piers set content creator pack. So I added the wall-less version to that one little short segment. And now it's just a matter of trying to figure out, can I get those walls to match up with the walls? I say walls, fence, the rail. I'm trying to get the rails to match up with the rails on the pedestrian path. And this column here is really not needed, so I just deleted that. Little node controller, a little moving around. It's a little bit weird because it is at a slope, but I want it to be flat where the stairs meet. It needs to be flat where the stairs meet. So that took a little bit of doing. And then, of course, I've got those stair props on the intersection marking tool. It's saved as a preset. I did that in the last episode. And now it's just really a matter of, well, first, I want to detail our Greenbelt. And I'm realizing now that this Greenbelt is going to be pretty much continuous throughout the entire city. It's going to be an extensive network. And there might be some services within the Greenbelt. There might be some transit, right? So this is essentially part of the Greenbelt here, where this school is. So I'm using a little bit of the Bob Beautify our builds here to change the trees so that they really match with what we're using everywhere else. And this is this is the large park, large playground, and then this is a smaller 3x4 playground that is made by Few Candy. And I'm just going to try to integrate them together into one kind of larger playground area that sort of surrounds the school. And then this here, I'm just trying to kind of expand the parking area a little bit using some little parking assets that I made. Decided that one didn't really look right. It was too many parking spots. This one matches a little better. Just a little 1x3 parking area that I made with the asset area. And now to integrate these, I'm going to use the network multi-tool to unlock the networks and get rid of some of that fencing. And that is the nature reserve fencing. So I'm going to use that nature reserve fencing to bring these parks together and make them look like one bigger park. Now, I was having some real problems with the fence wanting to snap to the ends of the pathways on that park. So I just kind of put it out of the way here, and then I'm just going to use Move It to get it into position because I couldn't get anywhere near the end of that pathway without the fence snapping to it. And here I'm just trying to make the fences look like they were going together, right? And adding some more fences, adding a couple of gravel paths there to really just kind of make everything look like one big playground. And I think it looks pretty good. So these are the Greenbelt assets. I'm going to be using them quite a lot, basically as a starting point and an ending point for all of the Greenbelt pedestrian paths. They're real easy to integrate with just the path areas. I put a little bit of the same sort of vegetation around the areas. And then, of course, using the forest brush to fill in the... I really love how the forest brush will randomize, and you can adjust how much to put of different types of plants. And then you can change the strength if you want it to be a little bit lighter in an area or heavier in an area. So filling in behind those commercial assets. And then I realized, I'm just going to go ahead. I know it'll make all of those buildings have to rebuild, but I didn't like the vanilla commercial assets there. I want the Green Cities organic local produce assets there because they've got some nice one-by-one little fruit stands and whatnot, the farmer's market looking stuff. That is really the kind of vibe I'm going for, sort of a community little grocery store, just fresh produce for the little residential area. And this bit of pathway, it's a little bit excessive maybe, but it is nice. It's lots of walking around. Oh, I talked about this when I put that there. I kind of felt like maybe these elderly residents of the retirement home, maybe they don't need to have like this big drop off with a bunch of rocks on it in their backyard. So I put a fence up there, make it feel a little bit safer. And then, of course, some nice plants, forest brush, more forest brush. I go a little nuts with the forest brush. With this Greenbelt, though, there's so much detailing. If I were to do this tree by tree, it would take me forever. It already has taken me a long time to get this all detailed in. But I really want... Oh, this is another thing. I talked last time about a gazebo opportunity, and I totally missed that one. That was a good spot for it. Also, the park did level up while I was filming the cinematics, so we do have this trampoline park. And I did mention that this was where I was planning to put it. And so now we can just put some fences, really make this complete. Now, this is another thing that's a great idea that I've seen other YouTubers do, is adding fences to the sides of network, not by just building them, but by using the intersection marking tool, right? It's easy, it's fast, it conforms perfectly to the edge of the network, and the best part is it doesn't add any extra nodes to your city, because after a while all of those nodes, they start to lag your game. So I'm going to try to do that quite a bit more when I'm doing my Greenbelt, just to sort of save on the nodes, and also in tighter spaces like this, it just makes more sense. This area, I mean, it's barely counts as being a Greenbelt, right? It's pretty close between the commercial buildings and the highway, but it at least connects it, and that's the main thing. I want the whole network to be connected, the whole Greenbelt network to be connected. Even though there is parks, you may have to go out to the sidewalk every once in a while. Like right there. So right there, you have to go off the Greenbelt network and go into the park. But that's going to be more the exception than the rule, I believe. And later on, I may even just knock down that fence and connect the paths directly. Later on, I'm planning, once I can afford it, to make all of the city parks free. Now, that won't include any nature reserves or amusement parks, anything like that. But all of the regular city parks I plan for them to be free, because they're going to be part of the Greenbelt network. And I mentioned this before, but one of the reasons why I made those assets for the Greenbelt network, part of it was to save time, so I didn't have to build the paths every time. And detail them and put all the trees and such. But the other thing is if you're just putting trees and such and paths in, then you're not really getting any boost for you're not getting the tourism boost that you get from a park. You're not getting the leisure boost, the land value boost, the whole entertainment radius thing. And I thought, well, if I'm going to have all of this stuff here, I need to have those things because it really is just like a park. So I made them into parks, and I really tried to make them where they're not overpowered. The radius of them makes sense based on what's contained in the park, which is basically just some pathways and some benches and some trees. So it's not going to be like a huge radius and a high entertainment boost. Okay, so this little area here, I said I wanted to keep it without having to make it into a regular pedestrian area, right? I don't want to have the service point and the little painted area, which costs money to maintain. So I'm just going to fill it in with some assets that will connect. And so I had to figure out where I could fit that skate park in. I moved everything over a little bit. Now this had actually, I thought for a second it was going to let me build the pool connected to the pedestrian road, but that's all right. I just stick it right here and connect it to the street. Little community pool. Those little health assets like that are something that I want to use more in this build than I've used in the past. It's a little close to those houses, so I'll put that little hedge in between, which makes sense because there's already a hedge on two sides of it. And now I'm just going to put some more park assets, expand my park area here. I put an info booth there. The info booth also has some restrooms on it, so that'll be handy for the folks on their long walks. And then, of course, a little cafe. Maybe you need to stop, take a break, get a baguette and some coffee or tea. I don't know why you would eat an entire baguette, but anyhow. And yeah, lots and lots of just filling in the vegetation and the trees and the fences and all of that good stuff. I did realize that I need to be placing more rocks. I haven't placed enough rocks in the Greenbelt area like I did in that intersection park. So interchange park, I should say. All right. So yeah, if the Greenbelt's going everywhere, then I want it in my industrial areas too. Why shouldn't the industrial areas have a nice Greenbelt? Commercial areas, industrial areas, residential areas, every area is going to have this nice nature walk Greenbelt. So if you want to ride a bike or walk, then you will be able to everywhere you go in the entire city, even downtown. I want it to have this kind of green belt network. This is inspired by some real cities. There's an extensive greenbelt network that is in Washington, D.C. that I really enjoyed when I lived there for a year. It was really great because you could use it as a way of getting from one part of the city to another. There's a city in Brazil that I saw a little documentary on called Curitiba, and it has a really cool green network that goes through the middle of the city, and it has like this really awesome waterfall river that serves two functions. First of all, it's beautiful, and there's lots of paths and stuff for people to walk and bike, and it goes right through the middle of the city. And you can get from one place to the other and style and with a really aesthetic, beautiful, nature-filled area. And it also provides flood control for the city. So it makes so much sense, and it's just such smart design. I thought that was a really cool setup. Makes a lot of sense. Now, I talked about maybe putting a key wall here, and I decided to go ahead and do that, even though the proximity to the road is not going to let me push that terrain down and really expose the side of the key wall there to the water. I still think it looks nicer, And more than anything, I wanted to kind of enclose this area here with the water treatment facilities and the recycling plants, because even with the filter ground waste, I think that's what it's called, the policy that reduces the amount of pollution in the ground, that is not going to affect these facilities. And rather than use a mod to cover up the polluted ground, I'm just going to cover it with some concrete with the the painter, surface painter. Yes. So I just cover it with concrete with the surface painter tool, and I think it looks a lot better. I'm probably going to need to put some nice props, some industrial props to fill in those spaces, and maybe some fences and whatnot to really kind of make that whole space make more sense. Now here in the middle of the highway, I still wanted it to look nice, so I figured maybe I can put some little planter boxes with these flowers in them. Maybe stick some trees in the middle of it. Straight line's not going to cut it. There's a little bit of a curve. I thought I could get away with just making it straight, but it looks much better with that little bit of curve. Now, the ground is polluted there, so the trees are looking real scraggly. So I'm searching here for a tree that fits the theme, but also doesn't look too scraggly. And I think this is the Chinese windmill palm. I think I wound up using this. I was having issues. Even with Anarchy, it is not letting me put the trees right in the center of those planter boxes. So I have to put it just off to the side a little bit. But I think it's much improved from what it was before. This is an area that I was planning to put some assets in. I couldn't really think of anything. But then I remembered I made these little tiny food truck places, little 2x2 spot with some food trucks and a food stall, 2 different versions, and just 6 little tables. Just a small little snack spot right here, right before the highway overpass. So I think that is a pretty good use of the space. And then I didn't like that sculpture that was there before, so I'm replacing it, and that's one of the ones from the plazas and promenades. And now I'm just sort of going around trying to figure out all of the little spots that I haven't detailed yet. I haven't finished putting the little shrubs, hedges lining the pathways. There's probably some spots that I missed. And then what to do with this area here. One of the things about this Greenbelt, this is a unique building. It's the Friendly Neighborhood Park, and it's a really nice. It's a shame you can only put it in once. It's a nice little park, and it's real easy. It has those paths. It's real easy to integrate it into a larger area. And yeah, I wanted to be a little bit more realistic in this city build with my parking. Something that I've sort of neglected to do in the past, just sort of, they'll just park everywhere. But yeah, if I'm going to really have this Greenbelt network here, it makes sense to have places for people to park and get out and walk. One of the things, obviously, with the city build here is that the networks are separated, right? The commercial and industrial network with all those vehicles is completely cut off, removed from the residential networks. They have their own highways, they have their own, well, not their own highways, but their own highway exits and their own network hierarchy. And they're only connected here with these pedestrian roads right now. This is another little homemade park asset. It's just called Shady Lane. And yeah, it's just some paths and some trees. Okay, this area. Not really much happening here, but there is a space for something, and don't really need parking here so much. But it's a good spot for this lovely little community park, another Few Candy park asset. And then next to it, I stuck this little asset that I made called Cookout, and it's just a little 2x2 place that has a grill and some tables. A little place for people to do a little grilling, because there's nothing better than the outdoors and some fire and some food. It's just always a nice, relaxing way to have a meal and have some leisure time. This is something I've been planning to do, start putting post offices. I have yet to use the whole postal service in the build, so adding that in there, and then I need to sort of figure out how am I going to finish out this little commercial area. It's still not quite developed. Pretty straightforward, just some pedestrian paths going behind the buildings, little ways to connect it to the streets, and then just zone the areas. Okay, the roundabout. I have yet to decorate this roundabout, so just using that prop line tool to make some lovely circles. Pretty standard. This is how most everyone details their roundabouts. This one's got a little tram line going through the middle. Oh, you know, I should make that a grass-filled tram line too. Those grass-filled tram lines are also narrow. I think the full title is Narrow Tram Track Grass. It's in the asset list. It's by Cluse. Really excellent network. Okay. Just going to give you a little tour here. Let's just check out our Greenbelt network as it stands so far. All right, we filled in this area. It's all nice and detailed. It's really starting to get to that point where it just, everything looks like it fits together. Instead of just a lot of different things by themselves, there's our stairs, people going up and down the stairs to get to the tram stop. That's nice to see. Looks like they're clipping into the top of that key wall a little bit, but and cruising up those stairs on their bicycle. That's okay, sinking into the key wall a bit, but still, right? It's starting to look like a real place and not like just a bunch of elements all around. Everything's starting to tie together. It's starting to, oh, there's a spot that I haven't put the hedges on yet. Let's just go ahead and put those hedges in. Sometimes the prop line tool will want to snap to things, and I've found if I just turn, it's usually networks, right? Because it thinks you're trying to upgrade the network to change the trees. I've found that if I rotate the camera away from that network, it helps. So, our little parking area here next to the school. Our integrated parks. Looks just like one big wraparound playground instead of two separate little playgrounds. And I love this little playground here by Few Candy. Just a handy dandy, cute little park. So many places you can put it in. And then our tram stop right behind the school. This network is starting to make sense. Now, this is an area that I still need to develop. Not sure exactly what's going there. Probably some services. And then, of course, that will also be part of the Greenbelt network. Let's just add a few more trees here. It's looking a little empty. And you know, the thing I like most about City Skylines is just imagining what it would be like to live in these places. I mean, I think that's what everybody likes about this game, right? It's the challenge, of course, of making a good design, but really also just thinking about, you know, what's it feel like to be in this little world? It's kind of like what all art is about, right? You create a little world and then you imagine what it's like to visit that world. And I like to make worlds that are better than the one. Or I should just say, my favorite thing to do with art is to try and create a world, the world that I want to be in, right? Not so much to escape the world I'm in, although that is part of it, but really just to imagine the potential, right? Imagine what the world can be. And that's what humans have done throughout time. They imagine it, and then, eventually, if all goes well, they make it into a reality. So the aesthetics of these designs, somehow, some way, could possibly inspire the designs of real cities in the future, right? We already have real city planners who work in the real world, designing and planning real cities that play City Skylines for fun, right? But you know that some of the ideas that they have in this game are going to make it into the real world. I think I read somewhere that the city of Stockholm used this game to help redesign their transit system. So the lines between simulations and reality, they're constantly being moved, I guess. Speaking of moving, this needs to move over a little bit. It's because I don't like where the vegetation's going over the sidewalk. Right? The line between what's a simulation and what's real, it is not as clear as it used to be. In fact, some people think that our reality is only a simulation. So what better way to spend your time than creating a wonderful simulation, right? It is sort of an alternate reality here. Okay. Still a little pollution on the ground over here. we're greening it up, putting that green belt in. Try to make our industrial area as nice as it can be. Obviously, I mean, we have to have it. And you got to make a little bit of a mess sometimes to create the products that our lifestyle demands. Okay. Yeah, this area I'm definitely going to have to figure out some good things to finish detailing. Now, once I put this concrete down, those little bushes and plants and stuff. Oh, hey, there's a tree in the middle of the street. Get rid of that. The bushes, they don't really seem to make much sense now. They're scraggly anyway. So I think I'm just going to get rid of them. I'm just going to bob them out. Let's just remove them. All right. Oh, so turn the probability to 0 and click the little check mark. Oh, and these are just here. They're not part of the asset, so let's just bulldoze them. Okay. I'm pretty happy with that. I left some space there because I'm probably going to need to add some more water pumps at some point. This is an area I'm considering a beach build. There is a little contest on Overcharge Eggs Discord. I have to check and see if I've already missed it, though. All right, looking at the leisure here. Yeah, I think, oh, there's a fire there. And there's no fire coverage. Okay, so yes, I talked about this space right here was probably going to need some services. So I think I need to go ahead and put some police and some fire here. Now, how am I going to do it? I think I'm going to start with a pedestrian street just to keep those networks separated. So maybe just one little segment of pedestrian street. And then just a normal two-way road. Can I curve it over like that? I think, oh, I just broke the zone and my house disappeared. I was going to try to avoid doing a zigzag here. But I think, actually, in the long run, that is what's going to make the most sense. To just do like a little stutter step. Now I can put some zones here, and I can place my fire station and my let's just use the base vanilla police station. I like them because they're compact. I'm not going for any particular style or vibe so far, right? It's just basic stuff. Get everything nice and snug. Merge that concrete with the sidewalks. And I think that will really help with our fire and our crime. That building's still burning. Oh, okay. The fire engines are there. They're putting it out. All right, good work. So yeah, service vehicles will still be able to go in between the separate networks. Just to make sure, I want to tell it to, with the traffic manager here, tell it to ban all cars on that road, right? Only the industrial and commercial vehicles allowed on that part of the network. As we get more into our build, that's going to be a little bit more tricky to continue to keep those networks separated, but I think it's important to do those separate networks and to try to have a very walkable Greenbelt network that connects every section of the city. Oh, and I also neglected public art. This is Claes Oldenburg's clothespins, a little park that I found on the workshop. It's in my public art collection. And then I realized I should probably have some sort of parking here where the residential network transitions to the commercial network. So people can park their cars and they can get out and get onto the tram network. So yes, rocks. I neglected public art in my detailing. So I think what I want to do here, after I build this pedestrian path, is to do a quick little detailing time lapse of rocks and art. So yeah, this whole Greenbelt network. It's connecting all of these different areas. Right? I want it to be as extensive as the road network. You can get between the separated networks by walking and with public transit, just not with your cars and not in the trucks. Okay, I think that's a good place to go ahead and wrap up this episode. Finally got all the detailing done and expanded those Greenbelt networks. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for hanging out. And I will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.